What's up, everybody? This is God is Good podcast, and man, I ran into this delusional guy on the internet that said that people who believed in Christ were taking drugs, and that Christ is drugs. Yep, that is right. This guy have literally lost his marbles. And what's crazy is this guy is actually a pretty smart guy, but just something about him just really like weird me out. I honestly think he's on drugs himself. But the video have been going viral. Um, and it been out like for since like 10 months ago. And I ran into this. Actually, I ran into this video in particular, based off what this guy once said to me in the comment section on my latest video. And we're just gonna go here. And he said, "Be careful what you claim. Go learn from Dr. Almond Hillman." And I said, that guy sound like he is on drugs. And he said actually he proved Jesus was according to the original Bible in ancient Greek. And I said he said people were tripping, believing Jesus is Christ. That's what he said. And then he said, yes, Christ is a title derived from a drug term. It's all BS. So basically, that's what the guy said. Christ is a drug, and actually this guy right here also says it too. And we got two videos. I got one on TikTok that was very interesting. That was actually the first video I saw, and I ran to this and I watched some of this. We're gonna kind of jump around on this video. We're not gonna watch the whole thing. I'm gonna drop the original video in the comment section. Also, before we start, make sure you hit like on this video so you can send it out to people just like you who ran into this video. As well, if you like the content, feel free to subscribe. We do a lot of reactions. We do stuff learning more about the Bible. We do a little bit of everything, even some debates. As y'all can tell, there is some Hebrew Israelite stuff that we debunk and we watch and react, and pretty, just a little bit of different stuff. This is a faith-based channel. I got tongue tied. And we do a little podcast on here. And if you're a Hebrew Israelite, just know I don't hate Hebrew Israelites. But the ones that are in the camps, I don't hate them, but they drive me nuts. They be all in the comment section. But I think this guy got them beat. For sure. This guy got them beat. At least the Hebrew Israelites, at least they do, claim God in a sense. In a sense. But and there's some Hebrew Israelites out there that are like, they for real about Christ, Jesus, and all the doctrine that Christian teach. But we're not gonna get into that anymore. We're gonna get into this video right here. We're gonna go a little bit into his background, and then we're gonna check out some things.
Jesus, yeah. I used to teach at a mission. Are you kidding me? I used to convert people. I used to have mostly drunks. And I don't know, we were like a place for them to go and to sober up. But they had to listen to my crap. Oh, excuse me. They had to listen to my sermon in order to get that meal. Because that's how we spread, brother. Do you understand? I converted souls in a mission.
You converted souls to Christianity when you were 13?
No, I started doing that when I was like 17.
This guy just seemed like, I'm telling you, I see a present in him that is not of God. You can just tell that he's operating up on some type of spirit, and y'all gonna be amazed, just blown away by what he say in the next clip. But basically, this video, like in this part of the video, he's saying that he was once a Christian and that he taught Bible study at the age of 17, and he helped convert people over to Christianity. So we ain't gonna go too deep into that, but let's get into this. This is really interesting. Really interesting.
Okay, so going back to your college, you're studying Greek, and then you said, at what point did you go to Israel, and why did you go to Israel?
Yeah, right after my bachelor's, went to Israel and stayed there for a year and worked on the Megiddo, Tel Megiddo excavation.
What is that? For people who don't know, people who don't know anything about this stuff.
No, that's okay. Why would they? It's the place of Armageddon. So it's a site in Israel, and it has a temple. Our team discovered the temple floor that was there. It's a Canaanite temple floor under everything. And that dates back, the last time I saw, they thought that dated back to about 4000 BC. So, and I don't use the E, about 4000 BC. So it was a momentous, wondrous excavation. And I'm proud to have been part of it. Yeah.
What kind of stuff did you find?
I found a chicken.
Chicken?
Yeah, I found a chicken because I was digging the old French dump heap. What they found that was so important was the floor of a Canaanite temple where these Canaanite priestesses in 4000 BC, where all the power, where all the authority is there. Yeah, Tel Megiddo. There it is. I'm sorry. I'm distracted.
That's it.
Yeah, Tel Megiddo. And it's a wonderful site. And I tell you, I slept. The most interesting part of the story is I slept in the vineyard of Jezebel.
So what did you learn from the stuff you found at Tel Megiddo?
That's crazy.
The earliest occupation was probably by these Canaanite populations.
Which was 4000 BC?
Yeah, they've got a circular dance floor for them to be worshiping whatever divinities it is that they worship. And these are like the Phoenicians and it's all up and down the coast. Jezebel was a Phoenician princess, baby. You know what I mean?
So they had a circular dance floor.
Yeah, right. Is that unimpressive?
That's very
move on.
impressive. For 4,000 years ago, it's very impressive.
Well, move on then, because when I was in the vineyard of Jezebel, these guys that went nuts, they got up at night and they sat there and they talked and they told me what was going to happen to me.
What did they say was going to happen to you?
On successive nights. They said a troop of demons will assist you to bring the Antichrist. Yeah.
Who said that?
Two guys on two successive nights.
Who were
they
these
went
guys?
Nuts. There were people with us on the excavation. Right. We're working during the day, and in the evenings we're sleeping, and people are waking up in their sleep and talking to me, and then going nuts.
Is that thunder?
Yeah.
This is amazing. We're doing this podcast in the middle of a thunderstorm.
That's crazy.
So these guys told you what about the Antichrist?
They
A thunderstorm and still going on. God ain't playing.
said I would be protected by a troop of demons.
A troop of demons.
Yeah, and they said it on successive nights. So, like, the first guy, Moshe, he went totally nuts, right? He sat up in bed at 2 a.m., started talking to me like a puppet. The next morning, runs off. Boom. The head of the kibbutz where we're staying comes to me. She says, "What's going on?" I said, off he goes. I don't know. Right? The next night, I didn't think it was odd. I love Jesus at this point. I didn't think it was odd. But on the next night, the dude that they replaced him with, he did the same thing. He sat up in bed. He gave me the same message.
You'll be protected by
A troop of
a
demons.
troop of demons.
Yeah.
For what purpose?
To bring the Antichrist.
What did you make of that?
I thought he was nuts the first time he said it. And the second time he said it, I thought, wow, this place is like, what happened? Is there some kind of material in the ground or something out here?
Making these people crazy?
You know what I mean? Making people nuts. The head of the kibbutz came to me and she said, "What's going on?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "What's going on? 2 of your roommates have gone totally nuts." I said, "Hell if I know." Yeah. What would you expect me to say? When they claimed that I was able to levitate through doors at the university, and they had a inquiry as to my state of demon possession.
When was this?
when I worked for St. Mary's University.
So this is much later.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try to stay on track.
Let's
Try to stay like.
So I don't know if I'm going to get in that part of the video, but he actually got fired. He was like a professor. He got fired from St. Mary University. I think that's what he said. And it's Catholic University. And for demon possession. That's very interesting. Because he said that they told him that he was going to be led by 7 demons. Right? 7. 7 demons. Troop of demons. Don't it sound like in the Bible? After deliverance or something? 7, they'll come back with more. 7 more. I don't even know how you let that go over his head.
Wow.
You see what happens?
Are you sure you're not the Antichrist?
There's just a rain cloud that follows him around everywhere.
They think this junk is funny, bro.
What is the Christ?
What is the Antichrist?
What is the Christ? If you have to know the Antichrist, you have to know the Christ.
Right.
It's a Greek word. For applying a drug to your eyes.
Really?
So that they may be open.
That's what the Christ means in Greek.
Yes, it's from the verb chrio, to be stung by the gadfly.
Huh.
Who's the gadfly?
This guy is creepy, bro.
Do you run a fantasy golf league that is managed?
Who is the guy?
I promise I'm going to get YouTube Premium one day.
Yeah, I don't know. Socrates said he was. It's a thing they had going on. Remember, they have orgies and stuff like that. So you better buckle up, right?
But what does that have to do with the gad? I mean, you think?
No, oistrous, to be stung.
Oh.
It's a state of mania. They call it in Greek, oistromania.
Okay.
To be in an altered state.
Right. Okay. Anyways, let's go back to you're in Israel, right? And
He said he going, anyway. He's like, bro, you crazy. He's literally like, bro, you're crazy. So there's another part. I think he's talking about these drugs right here.
See text so that people can learn about drugs in the ancient world. And the committee told me, take out the chapter on recreational drugs or we're not going to give you the degree. And
so you only had one.
So he was writing his paper, and he said that they told him to take it out his paper about ancient drugs.
Chapter that was about recreational drugs.
Yeah, the rest were all medicinal.
Oh, wow.
Recreational drugs.
But didn't you say that they didn't distinguish between recreational and medicinal? Is that right?
No, that's exactly right. We were distinguishing.
We do it now, but they didn't back then.
No, back then. Things that you and I would call recreational, they didn't consider recreational. They considered medicinal. Right? So, curing depression is a medicinal process.
How long did you spend on this dissertation?
Oh, couple of years. Yeah.
And then, so there was one specific moment, a date where you had to go in to, I guess, receive your judging on it or get graded on it or get a feedback on it. I have no idea how this process works. So you have to walk me through it.
Yeah. So you write your dissertation and you take it before your defense.
Before your defense. Okay.
Yeah, and your committee there is a group of professors, and usually there's one from outside the department, just so the university stays kind of impartial. You know what I mean? And so it's a committee of professors. Anyway, you present your dissertation to them, and then they tell you you're terrible.
They tell you you're terrible.
Yeah. Or they pass you and you get to walk out and say, I have a doctoral degree. So they told me at the end, they're supposed to give a thumbs up or thumbs down, but they didn't give me anything. And I was standing there looking around like, what? Right? And they, I met with the head of the department and was told, you have to take out the chapter on recreational drugs, and you have to scrub any references to recreational drugs in the rest of the work. And
What?
you're fine. Yeah.
What was your response?
She said, the Romans just wouldn't do such a thing. This is the head of the department. And by that time, I had seen so much stuff that the Romans were doing. I was like, oh my God, I understand what's going on. They're building a ceiling that we can't get beyond, that doesn't exist. We should be able to go right through that thing. With these texts, we can do that. Anyhow, so I took the material and I sent it to Macmillan. I just scrubbed it, and then I sent it to Macmillan. And they accepted it. Thomas Dunn accepted it. And it was fantastic.
Macmillan is what?
It was St. Martin's Press.
Publishing
Yeah,
company.
it used to be publishing company, St. Martin's Press.
So he's just talking about mainly what happened. Let's see. I think he get this ad. He got this little ad in the video. So.
/DANNY.
Trying to get
Yeah,
up.
because they're offerings.
And what was what did they gain by taking these drugs, and what sort of what did they learn? What sort of enlightenment did they achieve? And what was the ends to the use of these drugs for them?
Yeah. We have instead of me making something up, you could read the Mithras liturgy in the Greek magical papyri, where it talks about what you'll see and how you should interact and what you have to do.
Oh, they had like a protocol.
Yeah. It's like a manual.
Wow.
Yeah. And you got to have the right things to bring with you, because you got to make the drugs, right? You get there and first of all, you're going to be fasting for a certain number of days. Mm-hmm. And they put you through these repetitious songs, right? And
And he's talking about the Greek and they're like drugs that they use and stuff.
have these in the PGM where you're setting the images in your head. Remember, this is idolatry. Eidolon is the word for image, right? Mm-hmm. Image. And there's, so when we're on our snake venom and you've got a concoction and they're using tons of snake stuff. I got an entire author for you. Watch this. Philuminous is his name. Philuminous with a PH on the front. Yeah. He is a physician somewhere before the 4th century, because they start quoting him in the 4th. And he's a physician who talks about the venoms. I've got a couple of slides of him. He talks about the venoms that are used. Some great stuff, by the way.
Snake venoms were used as mind-altering drugs, or they were used as antidotes?
They were used as medicines.
Medicines.
Right. The Medusa really exist, right? They're women. They're a group of women. These are Scythian tribes, by the way. Mm-hmm. What do I mean by that? Tribes that are, they were a horse culture, mobile, and they ravaged people. That's how they, got what they needed.
And the Medusa were the ones that you said they had to kill a certain amount of men before they could get married?
It's the same tribes that are producing that specific group of women. They have this cult thing where they apply the medicine to their hair. They wear it in their hair, and they use arrows. And that poison can petrify you. And they'll drag you off, and they'll do things to you.
Like what? Eat your brain?
No. Sexy stuff. They'll either mate or kill you.
Well,
Yeah. It's a shame to have to end up a relationship.
That's weird that back then you would have to poison a man to have sex with him, right? Like, wouldn't a guy just want to have sex with some chick?
These are people being raided. Imagine being raided.
I mean, it's hard to rape a man if you're a woman, right?
So you got to give them drugs to make them hard when you're raping him because you're probably going to kill him too.
What effects did drug use?
You see his response? Huh. Okay. Like, all right, dude, whatever you say. Even he's not really like feeding into this stuff. Like, he's not like falling for it like that.
Have on the philosophy of Western society and the Democratic.
I want to get to the one about he talk about the Bible right here, but then he goes off on a tangent, but we'll check this part out.
Of these things
Yes.
together. It's the cults, man, and the operation of the cults. They're driving the literature at the time. Yeah, they've got a hostage and they're bringing it in. And you can get that from the read. All you got to do is bring up those cults and their activities. The stuff the early Christians were doing, they're collecting blood. And this is from their own insiders who are telling us this. Eustathius tells us this. And he says, oh my God, he says, look what they're doing in these ceremonies. And he goes on to describe it, and I've described it in detail. But they collect the blood.
Who is this guy?
Fetal blood.
Who's Ericthonius?
Oh, this king of this serpent king.
Can you pull up a description of him,
So,
Steve?
here's-
I need Wikipedia's description to give me the truth, so I know how to keep Amen in check.
Ericthonius in Greek mythology. King Ericthonius was a legendary early ruler of ancient Athens. According to some myths, he was born of the soul.
Autochthonous.
Autochthonous.
Yeah. Exactly. And what happens is Hephaestus comes along and he's like, wow, look at the beauty of what we've made
He was adopted and raised by Athena.
with this virgin Athena. Her name is Athana
Okay.
in Dorian.
So how did we get? Okay. So explain to people listening how
Yes.
we got to Ericthonius from Solon creating democracy.
It's that line. It's the drug-using mystery that drives everything. Cicero says his life was begun again. He was reborn. What happened? He went to the great resurrection.
So these guys,
forum,
these
Eleusis.
guys were taking drugs and having some great transcendental experience, right? And they were similar to people when they take crazy psychedelic trips today, right? They call it the ego death. They do ayahuasca ceremonies. This is what's happening to people back then. Is that what you're kind of describing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a death to life. I think it's a death to life experience. It's a rebirth, or what they described anyway as a rebirth. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, they put you. The drug concoction is incredible. We have it in Nero's library. We have it. We have the exact concoction that they used.
Has anybody ever tried to recreate it?
I've tried to get people to do so.
Have you asked Hamilton to try to recreate
He
it?
said, "Give me the formula," so I did. And he's got it. Could he? It's got a lot of stuff in it that I don't know if he could actually produce.
Right.
It's got several. It's got like 7 snake venoms.
7 different snake venoms.
Yeah, you can put it up your butt.
Oh my God.
Is that how they typically did
Yeah.
it back in the day?
Chronic.
Like a suppository?
Yeah, we've got a description of a guy who, his priestess, she's spanking him with some stinging nettles, right, on his genitalia, and she's inserting that into his ass. It's a rectal drug administration, and we have a text that describes it. It's called a satiricon. Satyrion was the word they used in Latin. It's from Greek, borrowed from Greek. That is the drug that causes you to have priapism, right?
What is priapism?
Priapism is constant erection.
Okay.
Really?
And this is what the Medusa use on their victims?
Too late? Is it too late for that? Or too early? Can we talk about that now?
It's still too early. Yeah, we've still got more stuff to cover.
Okay, stay tuned.
Yeah, we're going to go really deep into all of the really crazy stuff here in a little bit. We're going to cut off and go to Patreon. But I want to lay a solid foundation for your work and your research before we go there.
So basically, he's saying the Bible was like corrupted and made with people that was on drugs, basically. Um, and then they talk about. I think this one he was talking about Christians. Yeah.
I'm gonna sound like a complete idiot when I'm trying to ask you this question, but I'm to the best of my knowledge, at some point, the Romans tried to get rid of all these texts and get rid of all of the links to drugs, right? And they tried to rewrite history.
The Romans, I wouldn't call those people Romans. I would say the Christians.
The Christians.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who were the first Christians?
You know who the first one was? Is the guy on the cross with the head of the ass. That's the
Jesus was the first Christian.
That's the first depiction of Jesus.
The first depiction of Jesus.
Yeah, isn't that neat? If you knew the ancient cult, you'd have ears to hear, and you'd know what that means. The metamorphoses will teach you everything, the transformations.
Can you expand on that? What was the first depiction of Jesus?
Him on a dude on a cross, very crude, dude on a cross with a head of an ass.
With the head of a donkey.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't know Nicander.
No.
No, Nicander was a priest. 1st century BC. Late 2nd. 1st. And at the time, they were all super well educated. Mm-hmm. And this guy Nicander, he's quoted by later authorities all over the place. They're going to find Nicander in Herculaneum. You watch.
So at what point, or was there a point that the drug use started to taper off?
Yeah. In the 3rd and 4th, you start getting movements of Christianity that is bursting in. Libanius talks about these. They're raids. And the Christians burst in if anybody is using incense. Because one of the main ways that they're using drugs is through fumigation.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's an active practice. The first Baccha, Medea, she does this. There's an account of it by Diodorus, the Sicilian. And Diodorus says that she filled a pot full of all the best, choicest drugs and carried it through the town burning. Mm-hmm. Carried it through the town and fumigated everyone.
Wow.
And everybody joined into this giant thing that we now call an orgy. Right? When we say the rites, the cult rites, those are the orgies. Right? And you have the association with sex, but I'm not going there.
Well, there was...
Unless you'd like to.
Orgies were a thing. They were just a thing that was always going on right back then. And
No.
No?
What do you think? These people are lunatics? This is just like a whole bunch of orgies?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, this isn't.
I thought that there was I thought that there was like in Athens.
Yeah, like in Greece.
In Greece, there was always orgies, but the problem was that there was like family members participating in the same, like a mother and son.
Yeah.
And then that was looked down upon by the people in Rome.
That's what the Christians were doing. They started persecuting the Christians for the Roman government.
Oh, so the Christians were the one that were
the
Romans, not the Greeks.
It was Roman political control. Yeah, that exerted that influence. They're the ones who were the save the children from sex mommy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They were rounding up, especially in Alexandria, because that was the thing. They would get involved in practices. The Christians, they would fillet the dude who was their equivalent of a priest. It was like a father. Yeah, he was the leader of the Christian coven. Yeah, it was this there. And Romans were like, no, we stop at the end. Were they having orgies all the time? No, but you have seasonal orgies, right? Seasonal religious actions that you and I would classify as both orgies. Just a religious ritual and a sexual rite. Right? There's a reason that those two words are from the same, you know.
And then you go deep into that, whatever. But then let's see what he talk about when he talk about Jesus. Because let's see. I was just looking at. Okay. All right. Oh, and also he was saying that Jesus was like messing with boys and stuff. I don't know, crazy stuff. He said it in one of the part of the video, but we'll go to this probably an ad and it come up. To be honest.
Okay, so the first depiction of Christ was a man being crucified with a donkey head.
Correct.
And so who was Jesus Christ?
Yeah, Christ is a title.
Christ is a title.
Yeah. Christ is a title. Yeah. And it's a pharmaceutical term. It's the
Christ is a pharmaceutical term.
where you put,
in Greek.
Yeah, yes. And it means I have several examples of it to show you. But it means you can perform an incrustation, they called it, where I give you a drug. What you'll see me do is I'll spit on the ground. Yeah, I'll spit on the ground and I'll use a combination of earth and spittle, my own spittle. Why am I spitting? Did you know Jesus walked up and spit in people's faces?
I thought you said Christ was just he was an actual person?
In the text. Who is he in the text?
Who is he? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's most important.
Okay.
And that text is going to show us history, right? You can say what you want about the text as long as we're translating it accurately. So what is the text? Because the text is our evidence. This is science, man. I refuse to give over the discipline of classics to the humanities people. It needs to be taken by the scientists. Linguistics is a science. I'm not a linguist. I'm a classical philologist.
What's the difference?
Linguists do general stuff, right? Like how language acts under certain circumstances, or it's the basic mechanics.
Allegra was a linguist.
Yeah, classicists do just Greek, and then there are some that do Latin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me more about Christ.
Yeah, so it's a drug term, and it means to be putting that thing in your eye. Can I show you some?
So to Christ or to christen means to put drugs in your eyes.
Originally, yeah.
Originally. Okay. So how did this get turned into the person everybody knows as Jesus
The
Christ?
fairy tale. For example, you can talk about the age of the apostles, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody gets in their mind the images of bearded adult men, right? People don't realize those are teenagers.
The apostles. We're talking about the picture of like Jesus with the apostles at the Last Supper.
Yeah, notice they're all bearded men.
They're all bearded men, yeah.
Yeah. What happened? Because the original description, he's constantly calling them children, and they aren't. Yeah,
in the original description, who's constantly calling them?
James and John are two of Jesus's boys.
Yes.
He picked them up one day on a boat.
Yeah, this is when he talk about this part.
What do you mean boys? Like they're his homies or like they're his children?
Yeah, what do? That's the question. They end up together a lot with boys in tombs.
With boys in tombs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Multiple documents show that.
Okay.
We have St. Cyril coming out of one of these graveyards with a bunch of venom, it says, bleeding out his and a couple of prostitutes with him. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Every Heracles has his Hylas.
What was
Yeah.
How common was prostitution in these cultures back then, in the society?
Define.
How was prostitution viewed, and how ubiquitous was prostitution, and what was it looked down upon? Was it just an accepted part of society, kind of like drugs were? Oh
God, we got to go to Cyprus. We got to go to Cyprus and worship Aphrodite, where once a year, your wife has two choices. Either she can shave her head and stay with you, or she can go to the public forum and pick up one of the local sailors and with him all night, not thinking about you, and come back the next day and be completely healed. Yeah. That's the devotion. That's the devotion to the Aphrodite. Remember, the Romans are children of Venus.
This man here, this is wicked. I don't even want to watch no more of that because he's just wicked. Like, it just don't make no sense. But if y'all want to watch the rest of like the video, I'm put the original video in the comment section. I found this very interesting. It was on TikTok, and this guy is literally break it down what Christ really mean.
Word for applying a drug to your eyes so that they may be open. It's from the verb chrio.
Okay.
Right.
It's a Greek word for applying a drug to your eyes so that they may be open. It's from the verb chrio, to be stung by the gadfly.
So this is Ammon Hillman, who is a classicist who studies ancient Greek medical texts. And what he's doing here is a case of what's referred to as the etymological and linguistic carryover fallacies. The ancient word chrio can in specific instances mean what he's saying, but it also means a lot of other things depending on how it's being used in the sentence. We do get Christ, Christos, from chrio, because chiro generally means to rub a liquid substance, either for cleanliness or anointing ritual purposes. This is where we get its meaning in Christ, which means anointed one. Its use of being stung by the gadfly is a minority within a select few medical and poetic texts. To then carry that over and apply that is the context of the ancient Jewish and Christian meaning is both linguistically stupid and amateurish. Christ,
Man, I don't know why he paused there, but there you go. So, yeah, this man here is, yeah. He probably is working with part of the Antichrist for real. That's one part that may be true. But this man is most definitely possessed. He need deliverance. He most definitely have gotten them demons. They told him. Look what he's doing now. I mean, it's obvious. He give you the answer at the beginning. But a lot of people letting it fly over their head, just like this poor guy here, Daniel. Just letting it fly over his head. But anyway, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Feel free to like it, share it with your friends or family. But other than that, I'm out.